Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Matheo Cadena. We're here with,
Michael Mondragon.
and we are both chapter leads at Type Thursday, a global organization where you can learn about typography. But we're here to talk today a little bit about typography education. Michael, you want to give them the gist?
Yeah, I don't think that there's a lot of typography education out there, and there's a bit of a void. And what I've been noticing as I came out to Phoenix and getting involved and starting the chapter of Type Thursday was there's a big curiosity around typography. Not only like what makes great typography, who makes fonts and typefaces, like what does it take, and just that curiosity. Led me to believe that there was a big community out there of people that definitely need this education. So let's talk about it some more. And our backgrounds, we started in Type Thursday, Los Angeles, and you're the chapter lead there. So what have you noticed in building your community around typography curiosity?
Yeah, I would say the number one thing is typography is definitely a subject that everybody has learned or touched in their education coming through school or even online if they're self-taught, right? But the biggest challenge for everyone is that they don't get a feedback loop to show their work to someone who's been experienced and made mistakes and failures with typography to have learned why we do certain things, why certain rules work, right? For print or for digital. So people need that expertise and that mentorship. And that feels like what's missing in the community big time.
Yeah, totally true. And the more I dove into typography, I learned how much I didn't know. I thought I knew a lot, and it's infinite. Yeah, and it's just getting like that knowledge, you know, close to me, and the curiosity. Like I said before, it was like my secret weapon, and I thought that typography made my work stand out, but now I know it makes my work stand out because I'm following the rules, but I'm also seeing things that a lot of people wouldn't see.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I love to follow the rules as well as I love breaking the rules. And we can always tell when someone breaks the rules and they know what rule they're breaking because they're using it to a strategic advantage, right? For a visual intrigue. And then there's the folks that they try to just, they don't know the rules and they're just typesetting and trying out through their graphic design experience or web design experience, and they're putting things together. And that's usually when you look at something and you're like, wait, something's off here. Just your gut tells you something is visually not working.
Right.
And that was the case for me. I learned from my own experience that, I was working as a UX UI designer. I was brought in to, redesign all these interfaces for a application, and it looked terrible to start. And when I redesigned it, the team loved it, and they were developers, right? So they're engineers. So they saw it and they like, wow, this is really great. But I knew in the back of my mind, there's something off about the typography of this user interface. And that's when I searched for typography events in Los Angeles, and I found Type Thursday. And, I was so happy that I did, because in those rooms, going to the events, showing up and hearing people talk about typography, I immediately leveled up my knowledge set and completely redesigned everything that I had, just designed, and iterated it. It's that iterative loop in design. And I felt like it was so much better, after I had learned more from this community.
Yeah, I feel the same. And a lot of my typography was more from branding design. But when I got my UI UX job, all I was doing was creating hierarchies. And especially with accessibility, I
Yeah.
mean, the rules were there for me. So like I literally just went by what the rules of accessibility were. But using those different formats of typography, it was just literally I was just sorting things out and making it more easily readable. But also there's a lot of information for the stuff I was using, a lot of data. So like, how do you parse that all out? And it was, you would think that would be very difficult, but it was actually very easy if you know the rules and know how to make things visually acceptable.
Yeah, that's a great point, Michael, and maybe a good time to share the presentation.
Sure.
Uh, get started in on our presentations here. Whoops. Let's go to this screen. Michael, how's that look for you? Typography
Looking
chapter,
good.
exploring typography. And the last time we were here, we talked about how typography is symbols that convey meaning. And these are often called glyphs. And this evolution of symbolism evolved over time. And here we can see in that first shot is the sort of hieroglyphics, very visual form of conveying information about farms and crops in Egypt, right? And money and numbers and count keepings, right? And in ancient Mesopotamia, they even had cuneiform, which was like one of the first forms of typography. It was the first time they used symbols to represent things like chicken and different things for trade. So this is what we're seeing is the evolution to the Gutenberg press is the next one, and then finally into our digital world of glyphs and how we work with glyphs today. But in the Gutenberg press version, the glyphs were actually physical shapes, right? And they were cut out and they were also pressed onto the in order to make it the typography happen. And it created this visual consistency. Now we're lucky we're in the digital era. Digital era, we can reproduce glyphs really quickly and we can iterate on glyphs really rapidly. And so ultimately, this to say that typography are symbols that convey meaning and purpose. And the evolution of type, one of the biggest revolutions was the Gutenberg press. And so Johannes Gutenberg, invented this machine that helped make these blocks of letters and create consistency and, ultimately print out books much faster because they were handwritten by scribes for many years. And that was a painstaking process to transcribe. At the time, the biggest text was the Bible. And it took forever to handwrite and mirror these calligraphic forms. And then Gutenberg had invented his letters and the press system and was able to produce these much faster. And it blew up. That gave us the evolution of modern typography. And we take these letter forms now and we've digitized them. But a lot of, like WordPress, for example, if you're a web designer, web developer, you've heard of the Gutenberg press. So many things just sort of throw back to Gutenberg because he was so influential for how design evolved over time with this way of thinking. Type is modular, right? And the last time we spoke, we talked about how typography is an extension of the human experience. It truly is an extension of our mind and of our world, and a way for us to interpret symbols and things that are happening in our world. And with that, there was also an abstraction that happened where we could abstract letters so that we created the alphabet, right? The Latin alphabet that we know very well today is an abstraction. And ultimately, what we're doing with this is it's an abstraction of our shared reality so we can communicate a message to one another. And it captures a moment, a unique moment in time, right? Your unique interpretation of reality with typography is captured when you use typography and you write a note or a letter or a graphic, and you're communicating a message. You're showing someone your unique interpretation of this message. And ultimately, typography is a mirror into your mind where we capture a point in time of the culture, the world, the reality you live in. And it can go so many ways beyond this, but I love exploring this idea sort of like from the physical, logical to the philosophical and thinking sort of otherworldly. And with that, Michael, we can take this presentation down and love to hear your thoughts, Michael, on what you think about chapter 2, exploring typography.
Yeah, it's, and I didn't even put together that Gutenberg in WordPress was named after that. That makes total sense. And I didn't put two and two together. That's amazing. And you're right. It's I heard a quote a long time ago from someone. I'm not sure who said it, but I would give them total credit. I don't trust a designer who doesn't read books. And I think that's a great quote. I have so many books, and one of the things that fascinated me about just typography and layout was I loved magazines, and that's where I learned a lot about the world, was reading magazines of everything from like car magazines, humor, pop culture, music. They were all in printed form, but it really enhanced it. It was also tactile. And when I started learning, getting more in depth about learning about, how humans actually read, and that influenced my typography as well. So I think it's also that it's, books obviously go back a long time, and history goes back. I love history, so I love reading about it. but I'm also interested in how people read, and that goes to the UI UX. We're always wondering why people push buttons, why people read what they do, how much they read, why they read it. What is the incentive to read something? And I notice we also experience this when we're putting out things like emailers. Like, what copy are they gonna? What's gonna make them, sign up for our events for Type Thursday? So we try to think about those psychologies with reading, and it's all part of great typography.
Absolutely, Michael. I love that quote that you pulled out there. I don't trust a designer who doesn't read. I think in the modern era, we are meeting a lot more designers who don't have to pick up a book because they've got, YouTube University out there, or they've got any other web, based platform, learning platform to sort of watch videos and learn. And the new era of learning has definitely revolutionized things. But I think there's something special about picking up a book and learning. To the point of you loved learning about history, I didn't. I actually really struggled in history class a lot. But what pulled me into learning more about and loving history was when I started studying graphic design history and learning about all of the different eras. And I just fell in love with understanding where all these trends, these visual trends that we use today, come from, and where they were rooted in history and the time of design and printmaking or whatever tools were available, and what was happening culturally for the world, or different countries and regions where design took on certain trends because of what was happening. So that's my passion for creativity and design. Is I think what also helped me learn more and want to know more about history, and sort of ask these questions. As designers, we do a lot of research in our process. And if you're not doing research in your process, then I encourage you to start, because every time we do research, whether that's picking up a book, reading an article, watching a video, going deeper, asking questions, and just reading further, now using AI, prompting questions with AI and asking more to get information back about the subject that you're going to work with, that informs your design. And typography is the tool to help you create a clear, communicative message that can help you intrigue your audience. So yeah, with
Yeah,
that,
and also want to make a caveat on that as well. I loved learning about the history that I wanted to actually know. So it
yeah.
would be baseball history, or at the time, weirdly, I didn't realize that I was actually more into this than I was football. I actually grew up on NFL football.
Well,
And I'm not sure where that transition happened, but I was talking with a friend of mine, and I knew football stars from like the 60s, 70s, 80s, and it's
oh
not really
wow.
it's not my passion. My passion is baseball, so I knew a lot of the history of that. But through baseball, I started learning more about cities, because minor league baseball was really important in cities, also in Major League Baseball as well. But then started learning about around the world, and so common threads. And then I started following music, and then kind of tying it all together. So a lot of the history that I would do my research on, or comedy and stuff like that as well, I would learn more about that. I learned a lot about Canada just from Canadian comics, actually. Like Jim Carrey, John Candy, SCTV, all a Canadian broadcast. I think Schitt's Creek is the Eugene Levy series was made in Canada. So yeah. So I said I learned, I get obsessive about the things that I love in history. But I actually wanted to show you, and this is going back to what you were saying before. I think that one of the things that you're right about about learning things now is patchwork. Like, oh, I need to learn this. I'm going to look it up on a YouTube video and then figure out how to do that. But what I'm thinking is, and this is the same with AI, it'll teach you kind of what you want to know and where you're at, but it doesn't give you the big picture of why you're doing this, or why these other considerations that you're making. So I feel, and this is also, now that I'm going into teaching, I'm also learning that my students are leaving, even high school or even college, and they're not getting any of this. They're getting surface education about all these things. So the fact if we can talk about these things in more in depth and take our time, and it's not fast, and everybody wants things fast. Well, let's slow down a little bit and understand why these things happen, and maybe it'll help you understand the bigger picture of all this as well, because that's what I actually want to share now. And I'm going
Yeah,
to,
absolutely.
I'm going to take this off, and then I'm going to add this one, and I'm going to go to here. So right now I'm in InDesign. So you use InDesign for your presentations right now, correct?
Yes, sir. I love InDesign for presentations.
So you use it for presentations, which is kind of like, I really actually don't know many people that do that. So can you tell me really quickly why you
Yeah.
use it for presentations?
So in my career, I've had to work with Microsoft PowerPoint, and I've had to work with Keynote. I've had to work with other softwares as well, because a lot of times we're designing, we're actually handing off the design to a team, and that team only knows those tools, right? Because those have become the de facto standard in the office. When I moved to LA and I started reaching out to the typography community and I started meeting people, I saw designers were using InDesign, and it was, to me, scary, because every time I opened InDesign for the first time, I was just so overwhelmed by all of the options. And it was when I took Rachel Elnar's and Michael Stinson's Type Ed and went through this boot camp, 2 days intensive workshop, and he showed us all the InDesign features that I had also seen from Terry White when I was trying to learn InDesign. And Terry White was sort of like a hero of mine, because he taught all the tools that I needed, and it was like Photoshop, Lightroom, and InDesign. And what I saw were some really cool stuff, but I didn't get how to put it into practice. So Michael Stinson showed me how to put it into practice when I took these workshops with Type Ed. And so then I started designing in InDesign. And what I realized is immediately you have so many more features that are specific to typesetting on a page, to controlling, formatting, styling your typographic, layouts, and actually creating a set of rules that will convey across the entire document. And what I had to do in Microsoft, every time I would make a PowerPoint presentation, is like every slide you're going in and you're manually adjusting, and you're trying to finesse the tool to get it to do what you want to do. And in InDesign, there's already a feature that will often allow you to go deeper, right? And create that. For example, a baseline grid and snapping to a baseline grid, for me, was so much easier to do in InDesign once I understood how it worked. And ultimately what that does is it creates a visual rhythm across the page, so that your typesetting is like musical. It's musical notes in a way. So my summary of why I love InDesign.
Yeah, no, you're right. And when I was doing my UI UX work, I was actually, and I didn't want to make it in Photoshop, because I was making like a 300-page PDF in a sense. So I was like making a book, a manual for this. I started doing it in Illustrator, which was great because I had artboards, and I think at the time they expanded how many artboards you can put on there. But eventually I ran out of artboards, and I think that, again, I said that they expanded it. But at the time I got to 100, and I'm like, oh my gosh, where am I going to go from here? So when I learned about this, it was kind of mind blowing. And also Nigel French is another. I actually was a teaching assistant for him in at Adobe Max, and also David Blattner, Anna Marie Concepcion. I started learning about Creative Pro, but then I learned these little tricks which were like really, really great. And it keeps the files light, but also the typography, you have a lot of control over it, and more than you would expect. So I'm actually just gonna spin up a quick file here. Now I don't want facing pages. I'm just gonna have one primary text frame. I'm going to keep all these margins and everything there. I could actually push preview right here, which will show me in the background. I'll do that for the next step that I want to do. But I'm just going to create this really quickly. Okay. So you can see that, correct?
Yeah, you got a document here.
So a lot of people, so here's my text frame. So if I were to go to here, text, clear this out of the way real quick. And I'm just going to like this. I'm just typing in here really easily. So what a lot of people, the way that they would design is this, is they would, if they needed 3 columns, I'm just going to duplicate this real quickly. So here's my 3 columns, right? So if I go to here, I go to type, I'm going to insert placeholder text. Okay. So if I wanted this text to go over here, I would just click this right here and I would thread it through. So actually I'm gonna, yeah. So, right. So again, if I had text, I would do it. So right now it's flowing through here. So let's see if I can view, actually, I'm just gonna do it again. So I'm gonna click down here and I'm gonna put that in there. And put the text there. See how long this is taking me, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so way too long to set that all up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this, and I'm just gonna make that one text frame, okay? And if I go over here, I'm gonna set the typography over here. So I'm in this mode, so it gives me a whole bunch of options up here. So I'm going to paste this and you can see right here, how this lays out on page. So again, if I wanted this 3 columns, like how would I do that? And how would I do it fast? What I don't think a lot of people know is it's very easy. All you have to do is 1, 2 clicks and you have your 3 columns. And it's just from one text box. And so you don't need multiple text boxes everywhere. And if I wanted this to be 4 columns, there you go. So it fits on the page really well.
Yeah.
Another thing that I don't think that people know as well, if I were to, I'm just going to click return right there. And if I go up here and place, and I'm going to go to here and I'm actually going to put, let's see if this will work. I'm not sure if it will because it's, oh, so you can actually put graphics in here as well.
Yep.
Yes, and I'm going to make that fit in there like that. So I'm going to copy this. Okay. And you can even control all of this. So it's really, really great for, you can actually make, space in between it as well. And when I learned about just this little thing, you could put graphics in there, it was mind blowing to me. And so this is very light. And if I were just to make a PDF of this, it would be super light.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just going to go out of this really quickly. I'm just going to cancel.
We're going to talk about the context, like to contextualize this. If you were going to do this in Adobe Illustrator, you would have had to manually create the 3 columns. You would have had to manually measure the page, divide it out, figure out what's an equal width for those 3 columns. You would have had to figure out what's the gutter, which is the negative space between the columns, and do the math. Exactly. And I've manually done it, not knowing. And then I'm just like, I'm just going to do this to make a template. And then later I learned InDesign from Michael Stinson. And then, I was like, whoa, you can do it all inside one flowing text box. This is so fast.
Exactly. And so one of the things that I learned of, let's see, save that. So for Type Ed, we had this really great thing. It was a design, like a typography boot camp. So we actually had specific steps. In fact, I have them all right here. And what we do is we would start with a new file. So let me start with a new file here. And basically, literally the clock would start, and you'd take time to do this. And the goal was to do this faster and faster, right? So okay, so we'll start here. The goal is to, you didn't want facing pages, but you wanted a primary text frame. Okay, and then, you would actually set the columns here. So, which is interesting. Now, if I push preview, you can actually see this. So let me pull this to the side. This was also kind of a game changer too. Just like even putting preview, so you could see that you're making that's right. 1 columns 1, 2, 3. So there's your columns already. And it's if you have your primary text frame, you can actually have that there. So if I just create that, right? go to, oh, my computer catches up. Yeah, so if you go to preferences and you go to grids, okay, so you start the grid at 0. So you start at 0. Yep. Over my thing right here. Okay, so relative to top of margin, okay, increments every 12 points, and then view threshold every 25%. 25. So again, this is all, when you set these things, you can you go through this and it's like it becomes muscle memory. All
Yeah.
right. So in the interest of time, I'm just gonna go in here. So if you place, so I'm actually going to place. So this is another part of it too. So you can actually have a text file. So I'm just going to put this typography, and there it is. It goes straight into it, and now you can start designing, right? And you don't have to type everything in. You don't have to do everything, but now you can start stylizing it. And then when I started learning these types of things, and we'll talk more about this later, but just even those tips alone saved me a ton of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when we go back to, we were trying to build this in Photoshop, or we're trying to build this in Illustrator. If you've ever worked with typography inside of Photoshop, it's a nightmare. It's rasterized. It's a pain in the ass. The app crashes on you. Things don't, like, selecting the typography, you end up selecting something else you didn't want to select. Even the features, like the panels and selection, the tools to grab the type and edit the type, they're just a pain in the ass. In Illustrator, it's a lot faster and quicker to work with typography. But when you're doing multiple pages, multiple spreads, multiple columns, and you want images to flow and lock up with text, so you're dealing with, like, this image has to go here and it belongs to this body copy. Well, InDesign is the pro software for that, because it gives you all these features built in where you can do it faster and everything is cohesive and connected to each other. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and you really want that flexibility. So like even if you were looking for, say you had like 30 pages and you wanted to find the word letters, where are these? And so, just doing the find, going around, you can actually go to every single one. Whereas if you were doing that in Illustrator, Photoshop, that's not going to happen. And also, you can also do it as well as stylizing each, each one of the, say you wanted this every time it to be bold, you can actually specify that. It's something that you definitely cannot do in InDesign. I'm sorry, in other programs, but I think that InDesign gives you that flexibility to be really super finite. And again, if you were to design a book, you can't go into every single page. And also the text file thing is really kind of game changing, because you can make that with Word docs. So if you're working with a writer who wants to do updates, you don't have to go in and change it manually. Like, you have them update that file, and then it updates in InDesign as well. So I think that definitely it's these are the types of things that I like. I haven't heard anybody talk about these things online, and it's something I don't think that you're going to get just from a YouTube search.
Yeah, it's, for me, I found that it's really difficult to find sort of like key tricks about typography, typesetting, and InDesign. There's a lot of cool graphic stuff for Photoshop and Illustrator, and lots of tutorials on that. But I often find it's very difficult for InDesign. When I'm looking for something that's specific to InDesign, there's not a whole lot of video content out there. That's why I often refer to Terry White, because I think he's produced some of the most helpful content around InDesign features. And but even then, it's like there's so many new features always rolling out. There's so many different instances where you need to solve different problems. I think if you're a designer and you're working for a client or a company, and they want you to create, say it's 10 pages and it's about the company, it's a booklet handout, you could try to make that in Illustrator. But let's say you design it, you did everything in Illustrator, and then all of a sudden, the owner comes back and they're like, well, we want to change this image and we want to change this text, and now everything has to completely reflow, because you've got a whole new page just got inserted.
Yeah.
And now if you have to redo all that in Illustrator, it's going to take you a long pain in the ass time to go and insert a new page and manually, reflow the text across all the pages. The good thing with InDesign is it is made for multi-page production. So you have multiple pages, whether it's a presentation or if it's a booklet or if it's some kind of handout, it's going to do those multiple pages and handle them with ease because you can actually have pagination sort of handled for you by all the features that are built into InDesign. So it knows this, say, image belongs to this text, and anytime that there's a page deleted or a page added, it just reflows it down the page in a nice system. So you don't have to go and manually reconstruct the pages and the pagination. And that's what you would have to do in Illustrator, which is an absolute pain, and a lot of other publishing softwares as well. And Microsoft Word just doesn't cut it as far as typography tools, feature sets. It's just not as rich, and a lot of glitchiness too. The more you get stylized in a Word doc, the more the document misbehaves, acts up, and crashes. Anytime you've worked with something in Microsoft, that's been the experience overall. And sometimes you have to, because you've got to hand it off there. The nice thing is if you design it in InDesign, you can export it to other file types like a Word document or a PDF. So InDesign is truly a wonderful software when you are working with typography, working with multiple pages, and want to go into advanced, typesetting tools and features and go further into your typography education.
Yes, for sure. Robert, thank you. Control B for the text frame properties. Yes, definitely.
I've been using that all week.
Yes, using the key commands is also another kind of pro tip, and we should definitely talk about that. And don't try to do preview when creating a new document; it's buggy. So I found kind of both of those things to be true. Yes and no. I've had it crash as well, but for this one on this computer, I think the fact that it's actually working, but I do get it, and that can happen.
That's an over time thing too, right? Because the Adobe Creative Cloud is now software in the cloud. So it depends on your machine, your computer, how old is your device, is it up to the latest operating system, and then have you updated the latest software? And hopefully if you are on a new machine, new software, and everything's up to date, I find that it's not glitchy or buggy. But if you're somewhere along the older devices or older software, and then there's a sort of communication mismatch that can just cause it to be glitchy or buggy. But for me, when I upgraded the preview and then I'm building out a document, it helps me sort of save time because I can sort of see the margins and get those pre-set up. You don't have to, but it does kind of help you see what you're building first.
Yeah. Otherwise, you kind of do it in the dark, and and that's just one of the things of doing this. You always have workarounds for these types of things, and
lots of designers.
Oh, always. I mean, like everything's a workaround these days. It never stops. I mean, all the features get more robust, but for some reason it doesn't work, and so you have to work around it and make it work for you. Also, I wanted to also mention this too. So a lot of people, and I only experienced this because it kind of happened to me. A project kind of fell in my lap. Was people are designing print documents in Figma. Have you heard of this?
I only recently did hear about this, and I'm like kind of shocked. I'm like, oh, Figma going to print now. Yeah.
And I can understand that because it's a good collaborative application, and people can get in there and make stuff. But it was a nightmare to see how they actually built it, and it was the program was actually super heavy because of it. And the other problem was it doesn't have pagination, and I didn't know where one started. Or page one was here, page two was I don't know even nowhere. Yeah. I literally had to search for it. So there is, especially with InDesign, you can have things you actually know where how it's going to be laid out. You can use these other programs for print or anything that you want, but this one is built for these types of things. So if you're building things for like a book, the inside cover has to be a certain place, and page one, page two, and how spreads work. It actually has to be like that, and that's what's literally it's built for.
Yeah, I've also, coming from My first job while I was still in college and studying, I was working for a law firm, and they needed like a ton of sort of huge 100-page documents to be typeset, and like that was where I was like, oh, InDesign would be such a better software for this. They use Microsoft Word, but any chance that I got, I would like sort of build things in InDesign. Like when I was making my own contracts for myself, I was like, well, I know how to build a legal document in Word. Let me take that knowledge and now try to build it in InDesign. And I immediately recognized that header styles were so much faster, easier, leaner. You know, adding on effects was way better. My page numbering was far more consistent. Section styles are easier to sort of create and manage in InDesign. So as you go from one section of the document to another, if you have like a chapter 1 or chapter 2, right? So there's just so many tools inside InDesign that it's truly meant for you to be more precise with typography and typesetting, and just gives you a ton of control handles. And some stuff you won't use, right? But other things that once you learn about it, you're like, wait a second, this is, you know, just saved me an hour of production time, or like 15 minutes, but those 15 minutes add up over the week, and then now you saved, you know, 3 hours of production time because the software is giving you a ton of, you know, features that are helping speed up your workflow the more you learn it, right? So definitely advocating for, if you love typography, learn InDesign because it lets you get in deep.
Yes, and if you love type and type design, you can go here. We both have events this week, so tell me about yours.
Mm. So Type Thursday Los Angeles will be happening at HMCT, which is the Hoffman's Milken Center for Typography, located in Art Center College in Pasadena. We'll be there from 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Come by, grab your tickets before they go up, because tonight the prices do go up. So get them before midnight. You will save money at the door. Comes with pizza, comes with drinks, and awesome networking, cookies, sweets, treats, and lots of friends and fun critique at Type Thursday. People share their work and get feedback. And you, as an audience member, also get to participate in these presentations by offering your feedback.
Yes, and our event is in Phoenix, Arizona. If you're anywhere in Arizona, please, we want you to be there. But it's at Dialogue in downtown Phoenix, and we have 2 great presenters. A third one is to be a surprise, I'll just say. But yes, and we're looking for people to volunteer to be an editorial lead if you're interested in getting working in our team. We're also looking for other presenters for future events, and we have a big announcement to make at this event. So we definitely want you to be there. Please go to Eventbrite. That's where you can find Type Thursday Los Angeles and Type Thursday Phoenix. And yeah, so if you love typography, letter forms, it's a great time. You guys, well, hopefully we can get a budget so we can get pizza and sweets and everything, get everybody in there. But yeah, in due time, in due time. So Matteo, did you want to sign off? And anything else to plug? Or we'll be back next week, right?
Yeah, we'll be back next week. We'll see you guys again. We're going to continue to explore typography education, crossing over with the tools that we use, the tips that we've learned, the failures that we've made to turn our designs into a success, because it takes 100 or 1,000 failures to have one good success. And we've learned a lot sharing our work with the community. So if you want to learn more and you want to get mentorship, join our team, whether you're in Phoenix or whether you're in LA. Reach out to us. You can reach out through Instagram at Type Thursday LA or Type Thursday Phoenix. That's Type Thursday PHX, right, Michael?
Yep.
And yeah, you know, there's tons of value in joining the community and participating and building these things in the real world. You get to apply your education, your design knowledge to a real world community. See the feedback as people come to the events and learn. Michael, what else when you volunteer with us?
Oh, I mean, just being around creative people, I think that you'll get inspired.
Yes.
As I say, inspiration and punctuation, hyphenation, all the, you get, there's so much, and you don't have to just be passionate about typography or design. There's just great people there. And I think just, getting out and just meeting good people enhances anybody's day. there's a lot of things to stress out about, but both of our events have such great people. At the very least, you're going to meet someone that's going to potentially brighten your day. So if that's
Absolutely.
reason enough, right?
That is reason enough. And I always like to say it's, when your car is running on empty, you're dealing with the clients, you're exhausted, your creative gas tank is on zero. You got to go and refuel. And our community fuels you up with your creativity so you can go for miles and miles and miles, just being inspired, right? Because we're in the room with other creatives sharing our ideas and people get it. So you're not getting feedback from a client, you're getting feedback from other creatives, right? Or you're getting to share your feedback and ideas with other creatives. And that just recharges our battery as people. We need other creative people to inspire us. So join our community, check us out. Michael, see you later,
Yes.
I guess.
Yes. Let's go put out something great in the world. All right.
Yeah.
So let's do it. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us today. Bye bye now.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see.